Alrighty, so match week number 9 is upon us, and what's kind of interesting about this match week is that this is the first time this season where we're not going to have a Sunday game. So there's no Sunday night soccer, there's no marquee matchup that is going to highlight this week. Although, if there was a marquee matchup that highlights this week, yeah, we pretty much know which game probably would have belonged to Sunday night soccer, and I'm definitely looking at this game that we'll talk about in just a bit. But nevertheless, all the game is going to be happening on Saturday. We have two that are the matinee games, and then the rest of the game pretty much belongs in the meat grinder known as the 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff all the way up to midnight 30 a.m. Pacific. And because of that as well, and kind of almost a little throwback to when pretty much all the games are taking place around this time, that means there's going to be a lot of overlap. There's going to be at one point where I think there's going to be like 10 games that's going to be happening at the same time, which you know what that means. It's time to go groundhog. So let us begin with the first game, which is Austin versus the LA Galaxy, and this is the earliest start that we will have this season, if I'm not mistaken. Is this game is a very early start for me. 1:45 p.m. Eastern time, 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. Although since this game is on Fox, most likely the game won't actually kick off at 1:45 p.m. Eastern. It will kick off at 10:55 p.m. Eastern time, and it's also a rare day game for Austin as well. I mean, you got to capitalize in terms of playing day games around this time the year before. It's pretty much unbearable in terms of playing day game in the Texas sun in the middle of the summer. But they're playing against the winless LA Galaxy team, who has an 0-3-5 record. They are one of the three teams that is still winless, and they're the only team in the Western Conference have yet to get a win this season, facing against an Austin side that is 4-1-3. Now, in terms of all-time meeting, the Galaxy actually have a good all-time meeting against the the Galaxy actually had an all-time meeting against Austin FC. 5-1-2 is the record. And remember, Austin got absolutely destroyed by the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, I'm not going to read too much in terms of that game because, you know, Vancouver so far this season, they look like they're the team to beat so far this season. And there's no disrespect towards some of the team in the Eastern Conference, but this Whitecaps team and whatever Jasper Sorensen has done to this team has got this team rolling to the point that Austin just kind of ran into a buzzsaw. And it also doesn't help the fact that they play probably the worst game that they play under Nico Estevez in the last game against the Whitecaps. We'll see how they, of course, will respond against the Galaxy side that, you know, they're a team that is still searching for their first win. And I also won't be surprised. It might be a low scoring game. You know, both of these teams are not known to score a lot of goals in Austin. You know, prior to that five goals that they shipped to the Vancouver Whitecaps, they were one of the better defensive team in the league. So should be a very fascinating matchup in terms of this matinee game. But now let's get to pretty much the game of the week and pretty much the game of the year. So far in the early season, maybe a preview of the Conference final later this year, and that of course is the Columbus Crew versus Inter Miami. And this is a game between the last two teams that is still unbeaten in the league. Columbus with a 5-3-0 record, whereas Inter Miami have a 4-3-0 record. And this game starts at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. And as a reminder, this game is not going to be at Lower.com Field. It's going to be in Cleveland. Instead, obviously, Columbus fans are very upset about this, and they have every right to do so because it's absolutely ridiculous. The fact that this game is moved to Cleveland. I mean, it's one thing to sometime have teams decide to move to a bigger stadium for a marquee matchup like this, but why Cleveland in every way? I mean, I understand, yes, part of their own ownership with the Haslam Group. You know, they also own the Cleveland Browns, but that doesn't mean you also have to play the game at Cleveland Stadium. I mean, if they really need a bigger stadium to marquee that matchup, I mean, there is that stadium called the Horseshoe, known as Ohio Stadium, that is literally right around the block. And oh, that's also a stadium that the Columbus Crew used to play in the early days of MLS as well. But nevertheless, in terms of this marquee matchup, Miami does have the all-time meeting 5-1-3 in them. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting kind of a matchup in a way where I also won't be surprised it could be low scoring. I mean, anytime when both of these teams play against each other, we know how much firepower that they have on the attacking end. But recently, you know, Columbus, they're a team that, you know, we can clearly see that they definitely missed the firepower of Cucho Hernandez and Christian Ramirez. But Wilfred Nancy has done an excellent job in terms of having the supporter cast at least fill in that role, and they're also one of the best defensive team in the league. They're a team that doesn't give up a lot ago against a Miami team that we know all the star power that they have, but lately they've been kind of a little lackluster going forward on the attacking end. I mean, this is not a Miami team that's kind of lighting the world on fire, at least in league play in the last couple of games. They have had their struggle in the last couple of game, and especially dropping points against teams that you would think they would cakewalk them. I mean, that Toronto game is a great example of everybody thought that TFC was going to get absolutely dog water by Inter Miami, and that's not what happened in that one. So yeah, as I said, should be a very interesting matchup. And should be a matchup that again could maybe be a preview of the Eastern Conference Final. Like, everybody thought that was supposed to be a matchup in the Eastern Conference Final last year, but obviously we know what happened with the Eastern Conference just completely had a nuke drop in the first round with all the favorites getting knocked out. But we'll see whether or not that this might be a preview of what we see between both of these teams, and maybe a little bit of a rivalry that can really feel between two of these teams that has really been at their best in the last couple of years whenever both of these teams meet each other. And then we move on into the first of six games that starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, and we start off with the Philadelphia Union versus Atlanta United. So, I mean, would you say that this is kind of a desperation derby? I mean, the Union, after an incredible start to the season, it is no doubt that they have definitely taper off, and to a point where it feels like that new head coach boost that they had with Bradley Carnell has started to fade away because recently after that hot start that they have, I think they only won like one out of their last four game with a 4-1 and free record. Atlanta, yeah, it's been a disastrous start for Ronnie Delia's side. A 2-3 record, not what they envisioned that they should be right now this season. But in terms of the all-time meeting, both of these teams have 5 wins apiece and 7 draws. And again, maybe it's kind of a desperation derby, consider, for Union fans, they're desperate to try to get themselves back in winning ways, and especially losing their one of the big three that they have in Daniel Gastag, which was a really surprising sell. I mean, I understand that, as I said in the beginning of the season, this team is going through a bit of a rebuild slash a retool, but with how good they have in the start of the season, I was really surprised that they even think about moving on from one of their more important pieces in Daniel Gastag, and that's gonna really hurt this attack. Whereas for this Atlanta side, I mean, they're just trying to figure things out. I mean, the chemistry is clearly not there on this team. It's not just on the defensive end that has been a huge issue with this team, but on the attacking end, there besides Tay Laugh, there's really a big question mark when it comes to the attack, and there shouldn't be a big question mark with this attack. I mean, when you spend 50 plus million invest on the attack and they're still struggling, there's a lot look in the mirror moment for this Atlanta team who desperately needs to get a win to get themselves back on track. Now, moving on, we got the Seattle Sounders versus Nashville SC. So speaking of need to get a win back on track, Seattle got that exactly in the last game, getting a much needed win against Dallas to get themselves back on track with a 2-3 and free record. Although this is still a team that, just like Atlanta, is having some problem on the attack end, mostly due to the fact that they're still dearly missing Jordan Morris in this team. Now they face against a Nashville side that has a 4-1 and free record. It's been kind of a bit of an up and down Nashville kind of side. They had some great moments, and then there's also some moments that is not so great for BJ Callahan's side. But this game will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. So this is gonna be a day game in the West Coast. You usually do not see a lot of these day games in the West Coast, but yeah, this should be a very fascinating kind of matchup in the way that Seattle. Let's see if they can get themselves consecutive wins to really start to build the momentum, because last season this is kind of the same position that they found themselves in. Started slow to the season, but eventually gained momentum as the weather become much warmer. And then for Nashville again, we'll see what kind of Nashville side showed up in this one. We'll see whether this is one of those good Nashville side that will show up and really give the Sounders some problem in this game. Now, moving on into the next game is the Atlantic Cup. So this is kind of, in many ways, I feel like kind of started to become a forgotten derby, similar to maybe the Cali Clasico as well, where this used to be one of the best rivalry, if not the best rivalry in MLS back in the day. But yeah, it has really lost its luster, and big part of it is because both of these teams has been mediocre, and in one team cases it's been an absolute downward slope. And for DC, I mean, 1-3 and 4 after or that start to the season where they look okay in a paper soft schedule, even though they probably should be much better in terms of the paper soft schedule. Now that they started to play a harder schedule, yeah, they are getting exposed with a capital E. Now they're facing against a Red Bull side that the good news for this game, it's at home. This season, this has been really the only positive for the Red Bull so far, where they have been able to win home games. The road has been a big problem for this Red Bull side. They just cannot win road games, which is kind of weird because for a couple of years ago, it was kind of the opposite, where they could win a lot of these road games, but they just simply can't win at home. But the Red Bulls have a 3-3-2 record. DC have a 1-3-4 record. All-time meeting 22-13-10 in favor of the Red Bulls in terms of the Atlantic Cup. And, all signs are pointing the Red Bulls should be able to win this one easily. I mean, for DC, they're just an absolute mess right now. And again, as I mentioned about Troy saying of him, pretty much end up on the chopping block pretty soon. I feel like the pressure is going to be mount on him. And yes, in some way, I can also understand maybe he might need to be given time, especially the roster that he has worked with. There's not a lot of coaches that can work with that roster and still be able to get that team motivated and get that team play in winning mentality game in and game out. But if that doesn't continue, we have seen already before where when teams are going to a losing run, they're gonna fire their head coach and maybe hope for a interim head coach boost to kind of bounce themselves back to a respectable place, and maybe that's what DC front office is thinking about in the near future. Now, moving on, in the next match, we got the New England Revolution versus NYCFC. So, talk about another head coach that is definitely on a hot seat. But, the seats have definitely cooled a little bit, at least for Caleb Porter's side. Though, I'm pretty sure a lot of Revs fans are still saying that, yeah, they're still really hoping that there's going to be the one day when the front office finally pulled the trigger in terms of letting go Caleb Porter. And when you look at the wins that they have so far for this season, it hasn't really been that impressive. And really, what's kind of even more shocking is the fact that this team still have not scored a goal from open play. Like pretty much all the goals that they score are from set pieces, and all the goals that they score are coming from one man itself. Now they're facing against an NYCFC side that have a 3-2 and free record, whereas New England has a 2-1-4 record. All-time meeting 11, 8-10 in favor of the NYCFC. But for NYCFC, just like for the Red Bulls, they kind of had the same problem. They're a team that can definitely win at home. Well, on the road, yeah, it's been a big issue. I mean, they have not been a great road team this season, and this is the same case as it is last season as well. And once again, people are saying that, well, we know why NYCFC is not a good road team. I mean, they can't take advantage of that small baseball configuration that they have at home, which is why their home record has been so good. But yeah, they need to figure things out and trying to win road games. Especially this one is definitely a winnable road game too, because despite the fact that New England has definitely looked a little bit better as as these last couple of games have gone compared to that disastrous start of the season that they had. There's still a team that does not look like a team that simply could just rely on Carlos Hill scoring set pieces and penalty. I mean, if that's kind of your only way to generate goals, that's absolutely not sustainable. And that, yeah, we'll see whether or not if they finally can end that streak of I think become the only team right now in MLS to have yet to score an open play goal this season. Now we move on in the next one. We got Montreal versus Orlando City. So Montreal is also one of those three teams that are still winless, are looking for their first win, and it also doesn't help the fact that, as I mentioned before, as much as Montreal is probably happy that the fact that they're back at home after that 7-game road trip, the worst case scenario for them now is that they have to play against two of the tougher team in the Eastern Conference, and in this case, it's Orlando City. Though I will say that for this Orlando side, they've been kind of inconsistent at times this season as well. I mean, there's times where Orlando City has played that beautiful soccer, that Oscar kind of vision, and that's kind of the reason why they extend him to a contract extension. But there's times where they just kind of look a little bit lackluster, especially on the road this season. There's been times where they definitely have not played as well on the road compared to when they're playing at home. But there's no doubt that this is probably the easiest road game that they have to face, because they're facing against a Montreal side that I will say that they have definitely played a little bit better after Laurent Courtois was dismissed for this team. But again, part of that is because of the new interim head coach boost that is kind of giving this team a little bit of a bump. But despite that, they're still looking for their first win, and it's not going to be easy against an Orlando side that is looking to trying to get themselves on the winning way on the road, and maybe trying to look impressive in terms of doing that too on the road against one of the weaker team in the Eastern Conference. But in terms of the all-time meeting, 10-5 and 10 is the all-time meeting, so pretty tight in terms of the all-time meeting between both of these teams. Now, moving on, in the last 7:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff, and it's a pretty big one. In fact, this is probably the best game out of all the 7:30 p.m. Eastern during start, and that of course is Charlotte versus San Diego FC. So for sure, then of course this season they've been relatively impressive, especially at home as well. I mean, we know Charlotte has always been a very good team at home. That Bank of America Stadium has always been a fortress there, but they're facing against a San Diego side that is looking to try to bounce back after a rough loss that they had against the Rapids. That was probably the worst defensive display that Mikey Vera's team have played this season. And I think this is kind of also one of those games where, in many ways, it's going to be interesting to see who, of course, will take advantage of their strength. There's no doubt that when it comes to the tactical stance, San Diego is going to have a lot of the ball, and Charlotte is just going to let San Diego have all the possession and look for the counter attack. So yeah, we'll see how that of course would do. And especially I have seen that when San Diego does play against some of these teams that likes to go quickly on the transitional play, how much they struggle against those teams. Austin was a big example of that. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see whether or not if Charlotte can take advantage of it. I mean, there's no doubt that in the games that San Diego play, even in some of the losses that they played, they have looked competitive. I mean, yes, the game against Colorado, it wasn't a great game for them, but still they were competitive in that one. They showed some fight in that one. That's kind of the thing when you of course are facing against San Diego FC this season. It's that, this is a team that they're going to give it them all, not only riding on the expansion vibes, but also this is going to be a team that is going to be hard to stop, and you need to not lack your concentration, because again, this is a team that has really surprised everyone with how well that they play in the beginning of the season, especially the system that they run, a very control possession kind of team, which is something we usually never see with expansion team in the past. Yeah, we'll see whether or not that kind of continue in this one, or will Charlotte again. They have shown that they've been very good at home. This is a team that I don't think they have lost a single home game so far this season. In fact, it's been a while since the Charlotte team have suffered a loss at home. That's how good they are under Dean Smith when they're playing in front of the home crowd. Now we move on into the 8:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. There's four games that will start at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Starting off with Minnesota versus FC Dallas. So Minnesota is returning home for the first time in three games. They have a 4-3 and one record. And mind you, this team is still unbeaten since the beginning of the week. And if they go unbeaten again and do not lose this game, they will match the club record in terms of the longest unbeaten run that they have ever had to finish the season. I think that happened, if I'm not mistaken, either in 2020 or 2021. That is when they went 8 games unbeaten, and they're facing against a Dallas side that, as I said, with Dallas, it's very unpredictable with this team. I mean, you might as well just kind of decided to put a bunch of those ball you usually do in the draws for the groups or stuff like that, like the U.S. Open Cup draw that is, and just kind of pick to see what kind of Dallas team that we see, because it's almost a mystery to see whether we're gonna see a Dallas team that is very good going forward on the attack and show their fullness in the attacking end, or we're gonna get a Dallas team that pretty much look absolutely lackluster and doesn't have anything going for it on the attacking end. Now, in terms of the all-time meetings, 7-5 and 7 is the all-time meeting, so pretty even between both of these teams. And one thing I'm also going to be interested about this game is the fact that now that I think the blueprint is out with Minnesota, with the way that now if you can basically force them to have possession, they don't really have too much way to break them down. I wonder if Dallas is going to do the same thing as well. And knowing that have heard people say that Dallas is kind of one of those teams that don't really like to have possession and like to give the other team control, especially with the way that Minnesota is played at home. And when you're the home team, usually you are the protagonist of the game. Again, it'll be very interesting to see how Minnesota can navigate this, because I just kind of always had a feeling with the way that this team by far is the lowest possession team in the league. When teams are going to start to force them to have the ball, can they able to break teams down? And so far, at least what we saw in that TFC game when they were forced to kind of have more of the ball, the answer is a resounding no. So that's going to be something that I think Eric Ramsey will have to try to adjust because again, simply just rely on just this counter attacking style and also living off of set piece kind of style play. You know, if you're going to rely on that pretty much throughout the season, be ready to make some adjustment because teams will find a way to trying to figure that out. And this is also where it can really test Eric Ramsey to see if how good of a head coach he is to kind of make the right adjustment to continue to get this team to be one of the best team in the Western Conference. Now, moving on, we got St. Louis versus the Vancouver Whitecaps. Speaking of one of the best team in the Western Conference, Vancouver is that team right now. 6-1-1 is the record. And again, in the last game, if you thought that they were going to have a big letdown after a historic win against Pumas in the middle of the week in the CONCACAF Champions Cup game. Oh, they only just put five past Austin against one of the best defensive team in the league, and probably could have scored more in that game if it wasn't for some disallowed goal and also for the woodwork. Now they're facing against a St. Louis side that, yeah, let's just say that it's been a miserable start to the season for Olaf Melberg and a team that just simply cannot score. Right now, the Wales has been relatively dry when it comes to the goal scoring department for St. Louis. But despite that, they still have a 2-2-4 record, whereas Vancouver is 6-1-1. Vancouver has the all-time meeting with a 3-0-1 record. And again, when you look at this game, it looks like it's kind of a bit of a mismatch. We see in some of these weeks match where some of these games could be a little bit of a mismatch, but it could turn the other way. So we'll see whether or not if this might be that kind of game. I mean, Vancouver has just been so hot right now. They're firing on all cylinder under Jasper Sorensen, and they're going to continue to send the message to the rest of the league that they are definitely a force to be reckoned with, and maybe even send a message in the CONCACAF Champions Cup world as well, especially in Inter Miami cases, that this is not going to be a team where Inter Miami fans would feel like, yeah, it's going to be a walkover for them against a Whitecaps team that just not only look completely reborn under Jasper Sorensen, but this arguably is probably the best Whitecaps team we have ever had in their franchise history. And when I say that, I actually mean it. I mean, this team has had a lot of miserable season. This is probably the best I ever have seen this team, and it also kind of helps the fact that this team is also off to the best start in franchise history. Now, moving on, we got the Houston Dynamo versus the Colorado Rapids. So coming into this game, the Dynamo not has not had a great start to the season, 1-3-4, and we kind of knew this was going to happen. I mean, it's a very incomplete kind of roster. Anytime when you come into the season with an incomplete roster, you know you're not going to do so well. And they're facing against a Rapids team that is 4-2-2. But the thing I think with the Rapids that's kind of frustrating if you're a Colorado fan. They've also been a very inconsistent team. They have shown that they can do very well, especially on the attacking end. But then there's times where they just play nowhere near the ability that they should be. Now this is a game that again on paper should be a mismatch. You would think that the Rapids should win this one against the Dynamo's team that just looked completely lost the season with an incomplete roster. But in terms of the all-time meaning, 12-10-7 in favor of the Rapids. So even in the all-time meeting, seems like it's in favor of Colorado. But again, this is a Rapids team that, while they've been playing very well so far this season at home, they've started to kind of find that struggle once again on the road, which is kind of interesting because for a long time this is always a team that struggle on the road, but the last two seasons it's kind of been different under Chris Armas. It feels like this team finally is able to win on the road, which is something we never accustomed with the Colorado Rapids. And even in I know that they actually have won one road game so far this season because I remember they beat the San Jose Earthquakes in that one. But even in that game, remember that game with the way that they won that one, it was very misleading because that was a game where if the Quakes would have uh put away their chances and if Zach Steffen didn't just kind of turn back the clock in this one and just completely become a wall, they probably would have lost that game as well. So that's going to be something that I think Chris Armstrong will have to figure out with the problem that they have on the road. And again, good opportunity to turn things around against a team that again have just not been getting off to a very good start to the season. And then lastly, we move on into the last game, which is Chicago versus FC Cincinnati. So just like I said in this part of the preview, This game is pretty much probably the best game out of the 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific start. Chicago with a 3-3-2 record, whereas Cincinnati has a 5-1-2 record. They play very well against Inter Miami, just could not finish in terms of chances is the reason why they couldn't get the big win over Inter Miami. But in terms of the all-time meeting, 5-4-4 in favor of Cincinnati. And what's kind of interesting about this matchup, for the most part, Cincinnati this season, they've been one of the better road teams this year. They've always tends to get 3 points when they're playing on the road. You can't say the same about the Chicago Fire. It's hard to believe that, as good of a start that Greg Berhalter has got to this team, they're still searching for their first home win this season. And I also would say that they're kind of starting to come back down to earth a little bit in the last couple of games. Remember that free game uh, winning streak that they have on the road where they win three straight on the road and everybody was kind of believing that, Chicago is truly back. Yeah, it feels like that kind of feeling has really started to come back down to earth. And every season teams are going to go through the rough period and also the good period as well. And I still think that what the Fire has done so far this season under Greg Berhalter, he's done a great job to really turn around the culture of this team. I think there's got to be a factor now that when you're playing against the Fire, you can't just think that they're gonna just roll over or make some stupid mistake to gift wrap you a win. This is a really good Chicago side as we've seen so far this season, but there's no doubt that they need to fix their home form because again, you want to win your home games. You don't want to drop a lot of those home points if you want to get yourself into the playoffs, and it's not going to be easy to try to turn that around because like I said, this is the Cincinnati side that is one of the better team in the East. We kind of knew that was going to be the case heading into this season, but the road forms have been absolute stellar this season, and they're looking to try to get another road win against a team that is kind of struggling this season at home. Now, moving on into the last three games, the late game that is starting off with RSL versus Toronto FC. So RSL have a 3-0-5 record, whereas TFC, one of the three teams yet to have registered a win. It's hard to believe that two of the three Canadian teams have yet to get a win, and it feels like it's a complete different emotion when it comes to the Canadian side, where Vancouver is just kind of riding high right now, while the other Canadian team is just kind of almost in purgatory slash kind of hellish land with the start that they have. But TFC have an 0-4-4 record. Although I will say this about Toronto, they have played much better in the last couple of games, and one of the reasons why they play much better is because it feels like Robin Fraser is kind of doing the same thing that what we saw John Herman and kind of got that team relatively successful in the beginning of the season. They become a team that is really tough to break down. And I mean, when you have a team that just cannot score a lot of goals as we've seen with this TFC side, well, one of the things maybe you need to try to turn things around is just make it tough for opposition to break you down. And they've done a great job in terms of it. In fact, when you look at the last three game when they face again really good opposition like Minnesota, Miami, and Vancouver, they've only given up one goal against those three teams. Now, we'll see whether or not if they can finally find their goal scoring form, especially against this RSL side. That yeah, so far this season it's been pretty miserable in the start of this season. Most of the win that they've got this season are either against easy opponent or teams that coming off of the Concacaf Champions Cup play. But in terms of the all-time meeting, 8-4-3 in favor of RSL. So at least RSL will hope to rely on past form, means that they can get the 3 points, especially against a TFC side that I've always jokingly say that this is kind of the Santa Claus of MLS, gifting 3 points left and right. But in the last couple of games, like I said, they have not been the Santa Claus of MLS. They have been a team that has just been a really tough team to try to break down. And knowing RSL is kind of one of those teams that have had their goal scoring problem this season, won't be surprised this might be another game where there couldn't be a lot of goals. That is going to happen. And now just watch how this game is going to end 4-3 because I said that. Now, moving on, we got the Portland Timbers versus LAFC. So this is kind of one of those games where I wouldn't be surprised there might be a lot of goals as well because it feels like, with the way that the Timbers have been playing relatively well in the last couple of games, there's no doubt that part of that is because their attack is starting to hit on all cylinder as well. 4-2-2 is the record, whereas LAFC have a 4-0-4 record. Also, a small note, and I probably shouldn't put this as a small note because this was a huge news that was breakdown this morning. Steve Cherundolo will step down as the LAFC head coach at the end of the season. So yeah, for that the ongoing battle, I think, right now between the LAFC fan base, whether or not if Curandolo should still be the head coach of this team. Well, I'm pretty sure now that is settled, that he's gonna officially step down at the end of the season, and it's gonna be interesting to see who LAFC is going to get heading into next season. I mean, all sign I would say could maybe point to Jim Curtin being the head coach of the team, especially with the way that Jim Curtin he have already said that he's gonna maybe take about a half year or even a full year to step back before maybe jumping back to the coaching realm, and especially with there's going to be a lot of teams that I think is going to be in for his sweepstake. LAFC is definitely going to be one of those teams that is looking to try to get him. But this game will start at 10:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Pacific. In terms of the all-time meeting, 8-6-6 in favor of LAFC. And one thing I will say about LAFC this season, this team simply cannot win on the road this year. I mean, all their wins so far this season has come at home. They have to say that they're struggling this season on the road is an understatement. I mean, they've lost all 4 games so far that they play on the road. So yeah, we'll see whether that can change. And it also doesn't help when they're facing against the Timber side. And like I said, these last couple of games, Phil Neville's side is definitely rolling. Now there are still some defensive issues that could be a concern for this Timber side, but the attack has definitely got back to what it should be, and it's just gonna get even better with the way that looks like now Capacito Rodriguez is ready to go and could offer another attacking weapon that this Timber side already have a lot heading into this season. And then lastly, moving into the final game on Saturday, and the final game of this match week is the San Jose Earthquakes versus Sporting KC. So this game starts at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. The Quakes have a 3-1-4 record, whereas Sporting KC has a 1-1-6 record. All-time meaning 15-7-8 in favor of Sporting KC. But let's be honest, this is probably another one of those matchup that is relatively one-sided, especially with the way that, again, this is a Quakes team that looking at the last couple of games that they play, and really looking at this season as well. They're one of the best team when it comes to the attacking end. I believe they mentioned they're second on out of every single team when it comes to expectancy goals per game. Now, obviously, the problem for the Quakes this season, well, there's 2 main problems with the Quakes of why they've been kind of mediocre. The first problem is the fact that they're not very good this season when it comes to their finishing. They're really underperforming their expectancy goal this season, and underperformed by a mile too. And I've always said that when this team can to figure out their finishing, then yeah, I think this team can be a dangerous team in the West. But until then, that's kind of where they are right now, and they have shown that they can be capable in terms of scoring a lot of goals as well. We saw those 2 games where one when they absolutely destroyed RSL on opening night, and then the most recent home game where they dropped a 6 spot to DC United. Something tells me that could be the same thing in this game against Sporting KC, because yeah, Sporting KC is one of the worst defensive team in the league, and after giving up 4 goals in the last game against a Timber side that pretty much rolled over them, especially in the second half, I'm pretty sure Sporting KC fans are not going to be very excited about seeing the might that the Quakes have had, especially if the Quakes are feeling it when it comes to the goal scoring form. Do not be surprised. This could be a very ugly game and could be out of hand relatively quick. But it's all about whether or not if the Quakes can figure that out. And also another issue is the fact that they also have had their issue when it comes to keeping the ball out of the back net. But we kind of knew that was all going to be an issue. I mean, what did you expect when you have a team that give up so many goals last season, a record amount of goals give up last season, and really didn't do much to change that? And not to mention the concern of the health of Daniel. We'll see how long he's gonna be out, because yeah, going from Danielle and Edwards Jr. is like the Quakes having a decent start to the season to the nightmare start that they had last year, and really just a nightmare season that they have. I mean, it's just that much of a downgrade between the first choice netminder that this Quakes team have compared to the second choice netminder that this team currently have. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at all of these games to finish off the preview of match week number 9. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this preview. And what I'm probably going to do when it comes to the review is that I'll probably do the review of the matinee games, but for the remaining of these games, I'm going to have to split it into 2 parts like I used to do when all these games are taking place in a busy window between 7:30 p.m. Eastern all the way up to midnight 30 a.m. Eastern time. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to like, smash the subscribe button. As always, remember those comments below. What do you think of this preview and your prediction for all 15 of these games? But yeah, until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.